So I finally watched Superman Returns. Let's talk about it. So Superman Returns is supposed to be a sequel to Superman 1 and 2, just ignoring Superman 3 and 4. So it does bring back that original score from Superman 1 and 2. I mean, it was in 3 and 4 a little bit, but not nearly as much. It also incorporates a little bit of its own music, and overall it is a pretty good score. And it does have a decent story concept. Superman goes off to explore remnants of Krypton that an astronomer discovered. He's gone for 5 years, so the movie picks up when Superman's returning. And while he was gone, apparently he was supposed to be at a hearing for Lex Luthor, and because he wasn't, Lex Luthor was able to get out of prison early. So he's up to his schemes again. Now those schemes are still real estate. However, it's a little more nuanced this time. He's trying to create his own island so that he can take over the United States, basically. This time around, he's played by Kevin Spacey. I thought, honestly, he was played a little better in this movie than any of the movies beforehand. This version of Lex Luthor isn't necessarily celebrating that he's a criminal. He's just a criminal. He's scheming. He comes off a little smarter in this rather than, hey, I'm a bad guy. So he felt less like a Saturday morning cartoon villain and more like a top-notch villain. And the character of Richard has some pretty good moments in the movie. When he's saving his family, it felt like it actually meant something, and it was entertaining to me. So getting into the mixed aspects of this movie, the special effects are hit or miss. Some of them are pretty good. Some of them have that early 2000s glossy feel, rubbery feel, if you will. And unfortunately, in this movie, it does take you out of it a little bit. And I did think Brandon Routh was okay as Superman. He just doesn't do anything special for the character. Another questionable thing that's just mixed to me, I don't know how to feel about it. Lois Lane's son is actually Superman's son, not Richard's. I don't know how that works, considering they made him have powers, but the only time Lois Lane and Superman slept together was in Superman 2 while Superman was human. So I don't know how he has Superman's powers, unless they're just retconning that. It's a decent idea, but I don't think they do a good enough job explaining it or exploring it in the movie. It did have one decent moment where Superman realizes it at the end, and he basically gives him a little speech while his son is sleeping, knowing he'll hear it with the super hearing, I guess. I thought that was a slight nice touch to it. So the biggest negative to me is Lois Lane never tells Richard that Superman is Jason's father. To me, that's just, it just gives me the ick. I don't know. It's just weird to me. That's not a good thing. I also didn't care for the cinematography of this, the way all these scenes are shot. They feel very close up or clunky. Some of the scenes, it's hard to see what's going on, and it just took me out of the movie multiple times. And although Brandon Routh was fine as Superman. I didn't necessarily care for him as Clark Kent. If he's supposed to be the Christopher Reeve Superman and Clark Kent, he does decent enough of being the stoic Superman that Christopher Reeve was, but the quirkiness that Christopher Reeve had for Clark Kent, Brandon Routh doesn't really do well. I don't know if that was him or just the direction, but it didn't work for me. Another negative for me is, even though the idea for this story was pretty good, I think they could have done a lot of things better to explore the ideas. Mainly the Superman Lois Lane having a child. It's just they don't explore any of these ideas enough, and then every scene seems to be dragged out. They're all like slow paced, and when the movie's 2.5 hours and a lot of it's so slowly paced, it just makes it drag. And it took me 2 days to watch this movie. So this movie has some interesting concepts, mediocre execution. Superman doesn't throw a punch. He doesn't have a fight. He does get beat up when he's on the Kryptonite Island. In some ways I like that he didn't fight back, but he was fighting, if that makes sense. Overall, I'd give this movie 6 out of 10. Still a 2.5 to 3 out of 5 on Letterboxd. If you love Superman, I think you might think this story's interesting. If you just like superhero action, this movie's going to be boring.